Chapter 16, we're going to cover the respiratory system. The respiratory system consists of tubes that filter incoming air. Air is ultimately transported to the microscopic alveoli. This is the area where gas exchange occurs. The entire process of exchanging gas between the atmosphere and the cells of your body is called respiration. Respiration consists of the following processes. Ventilation is just getting air into and out of your lungs. Gas exchange between the lungs, the circulatory system, is known as external respiration. The circulatory system then transports the gas to where it is utilized. Gases exit the circulatory system and enter the cells during internal respiration, and cellular respiration is the use of oxygen to obtain energy. The organs of the respiratory system can be divided into two tracts. The upper respiratory tract includes all the structures that are above the larynx, including the nose, nasal cavity, sinuses, and pharynx. Anything with the larynx lower is considered the lower respiratory tract. The nose is supported by bone and cartilage. It provides an entrance for air. The nose contains coarse hairs that help to trap dust and debris. The nasal cavity is the space posterior to the nose. It's divided down the middle by the nasal septum. The nasal concha divide the cavity into passageways that are lined with mucous membranes. This helps to increase the available area to warm and filter air. Particles that are trapped in the mucous membrane are carried to the pharynx by ciliary action. Cilia are fine, microscopic, thread-like extensions on the tops of cells that move particles trapped in mucus. Here, these particles can be swallowed, and when carried to the stomach, the gastric juices in the stomach destroy any microorganisms present. The sinuses are air-filled spaces within the bones of the skull. There are four sets of sinuses: maxillary, frontal, ethmoid, and sphenoid. They are open to the nasal cavity and are mucous membrane lined. The sinuses function to help reduce the weight of the skull. It also affects the quality of your voice as it acts as a resonance chamber. The pharynx is a common passageway for air and food. It also aids in producing sounds for speech. As we discussed during the digestive system, the pharynx is divided into three regions. The nasopharynx is the area superior to the soft palate. The oropharynx runs from the soft palate to the hyoid bone. From the hyoid bone to the larynx and esophagus exists the laryngopharynx. The larynx is superior to the trachea and inferior to the pharynx. The function of the larynx is to help keep particles from entering the trachea. It is also the location of the vocal cords. It consists of a framework of muscle and cartilage. The largest piece of cartilage is the thyroid cartilage, also referred to as the Adam's apple. Inferior to this is the cricoid cartilage. This extends all the way around the back of the larynx. The epiglottic cartilage, or epiglottis, is a flap of elastic cartilage. This is the flap that flips down that covers the opening of the trachea when swallowing food. The vocal cords are two pairs of folds of mucus and connective tissue covered with mucous membranes. The upper pair are the false vocal cords, which consist of ligaments. The lower pair are the true vocal cords. These consist of elastic tissue. Changing the tension on the vocal cords controls the pitch of speech. You'll see links for the video below. The trachea extends downward into the esophagus and into the thoracic cavity. There, it splits into right and left bronchi. Each bronchi enters one of the lungs. The walls of the trachea are lined with mucus-secreting cells to trap any incoming particles. The trachea is very flexible. It is supported by 20 incomplete cartilage rings. The rings are incomplete posteriorly where the trachea comes in contact with the esophagus. The trachea splits or bifurcates into two primary bronchi. At the beginning, the primary bronchi are located outside the lungs and referred to as being extrapulmonary. The alveoli. This is the area for gas exchange between the blood and the air. The alveoli consist of thin, simple, squamous epithelial cells. Your lungs contain about 300 million alveoli. The right and left bronchi further divide into secondary bronchi. Each secondary bronchi enters a lobe of the lungs. The secondary bronchi subdivide further, giving rise to bronchioles, which finally reach the alveolar ducts, and the alveolar sacs, which terminate in the alveoli. Let's look at the capillaries surrounding the alveoli. Blood exits the heart through the right ventricle. It flows through the pulmonary trunk to the pulmonary arteries, which branch into arterioles, and finally capillaries. The capillaries surrounding the alveoli is where gas exchange occurs. The blood then exits through venules, giving rise to the pulmonary veins which enter the left atrium. Gases are able to diffuse across the respiratory membrane. The blood flowing into the capillaries surrounding the alveoli initially is low in oxygen, higher in carbon dioxide. Oxygen is therefore able to enter into the circulatory system while carbon dioxide exits. The blood, therefore, leaving the capillary is rich in oxygen and low in carbon dioxide. The lungs contain the bronchi, bronchioles, and alveoli. Just to review, remember the location of the lungs are the right and left pleural cavity. The pleural membrane is a serous membrane. It's a double-layer membrane that folds back around itself. The visceral pleura is the layer that's attached to the surface of the lung. The parietal layer lines the thoracic cavity. Serous membranes all secrete serous fluid. This is the thin, watery fluid that lubricates the surfaces between these two membranes. The right lung has 3 lobes. Due to location of the heart, the left lung has 2. Let's look at one of the word parts previously covered in a different way. Epi meaning upon, such as epidermis, can also be used in the term epiglottis. The glottis refers to the opening of the trachea. That completes the first part of Chapter 16.